Hello, good afternoon and welcome to our final session in this Lunch and Learn series. I'd firstly like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land that I'm on, the peoples of the Kulin Nation, and those of the lands of everyone on this session. I also pay my respects to their elders past and present. Today, we'll be talking about plastic drainage pipes, which are gradually being introduced to more and more projects. As I've mentioned before, over 3.5 million tonnes of plastic is used each year, with only about 13% of that being recycled. And over 1 million tonnes is single-use plastic that often goes to landfill. Hence, the plastic is very high on Ecologiq's agenda. Now, most of us acknowledge that this is a huge problem, and we are in a position to chip away at it by looking at plastic as a resource, learning from others and adopting these learnings into our own projects. Please ask questions at the end of this session so we can all explore the information our guest has to hand. I'll hand over to Priscilla and Matthew to run this session. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Cheryl. Hi, everyone. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us for our Lunch and Learn, one of the last few of the series this part of the year anyway. Matt, why don't you start off by telling us your name, your title and your involvement in sort of some of the projects that use these pipes.
Thanks, Priscilla. Yeah, my name is Matt Harpantidis. I work for Symal, sitting over our MRPV projects both at Hallam North and Narre North, and more broadly across the business. So environment sustainability is the area I manage, and I've been here for 2 years now.
Wonderful. And Matt, probably to start broadly, tell us a bit about firstly, how you've seen the use of recycled plastic evolve on projects that you're on.
Yeah, no worries. I really think I've noted a big change with the introduction of these new MRPV packages that have come out in the past couple of years, particularly with the introduction of the recycled first quality from the state government. And further to that, the requirement for these projects and needing to have a recycled first plan to help support the implementation of that policy. So that's definitely been a change. And as for the plastic pipes or plastic in general, is excuse me, there's a lot more avenues being in pipes which have been around for a number of years now, moving into more applications for recycled plastics in asphalt and other applications also. So it's good to see, and a lot of other manufacturers are moving into providing recycled plastic alternatives for some of their previously provided virgin products.
Great, and tell us a bit about how you've used these recycled plastic pipes on your projects.
Yeah, so we engaged early with during our talk, moving into our our design phase, ensuring that we implemented the recycled plastic pipes, for which we are using the Green Pipe brand on this particular job, into all our non-structural applications. So during our design phase, working with our designers, BG&E, and our design manager, we worked closely with them to ensure that all those applications that we had opportunities to use, we ensured that we embedded into our design the use of that pipe. So that's in turn enabled us to use that pipe in all applications non-structural on this job at Hallam North. And as for and then also it moved into our Narre North through that design phase also.
Great. And for the uninitiated, what sort of applications can these pipes be used in?
So under the specification currently, they only can be used in non-structural settings, so back of curb. They can't be used under pavements due to they'll not be approved for that structural, from that structural perspective, as I understand. So you'll find them behind curb for drainage, be able to be used behind curb for all drainage applications in those settings. Yeah, so that's generally you'll find them on these projects, particularly hydro.
Cool. And are they sort of a business as usual material now? Are they still considered innovative? Where do you sort of rank them?
I feel like they've been around, in my knowledge, for at least 5 more years and probably longer than that. And I know they've had some varying success early days, and that's probably left to a bit of a tarnished brand for that type of pipe. But I feel that there's been a lot of work done with those suppliers, and now Ecologiq being on board with it, in this space to help support their implementation and support the use of that recycled plastic feedstock that we've got in the market that can't be sent, unfortunately, overseas anymore due to the restrictions from China and other countries like that not allowing recycled materials to be overseas. So that has definitely led to that they've been uptaken a lot more. And I feel that moving forward, and even now, I feel that probably, I would think BAU to a degree, because I don't understand why you wouldn't pick it. We'll talk a bit later to some of the benefits in the implementation and use, but if you're trying to hit a target, these targets, one, they help support that, but two, from a sustainability perspective, they have those benefits that I don't see really any reason why you wouldn't.
Sort of an easy win.
Yeah, I think so, definitely, yes.
Yeah. What and I'm sure this varies across the different suppliers, but what's an average composition for such a pipe? How much recycled plastic's generally going into it?
So to my knowledge, and I did have followed this through just recently, is I understand the pipes that we've got 100% recycled HDPE, I believe, and I'm sure we brought up others somewhere on there, but I did check that. And so that's the pipes that we have on our job. There are others on the market by other suppliers that offer up to 65% recycled content HDPE, and they're available also. But so the ones that we are using are 100%.
Great, and that sort of causes the speckled appearance that we see. It's they're quite nice looking.
Yeah, it provides a bit of a differing sort of contrasting colour to what you normally use as grey concrete.
Yeah, pity that they end up underground, but, but they look nice.
Yeah, true.
Tell us, so you've touched on why you pick them as opposed to anything else, the fact that they're enshrined in standards and specifications, and that there's some, environmental benefits, and it makes use of a waste stream that exists. Tell us a bit about logistically how to get them, from the supplier into the ground on the project, both in the design phase and then into the construction phase.
So in the design phase, it's ensuring that you can embed that requirement into your design, and you get the buy-in engagement, not only from your designer, design manager and your design team, but also from your construction team, because then they've got to build it. So they've got to be comfortable and happy with using the product. And we've had some really good wins with the use of the products on our job. And they're finding the product in its implementation easy to work with, and actually quicker to install. So there's some good outcomes from its use on site also.
When you say easier to use, easier to install, is that due to the weight? Is that due to the size, or how do they compare physically?
Both, as I understand. So the particular green pipe product in question is 6 metres long. So they're near on double the length of a standard culvert pipe section. So you're effectively halving the time of installation. They're a lot easier to move around. They do have some challenges because they are that extra length in moving them around the site, so that it's not constrained, but it's just a consideration that the guys in the field have to consider when moving the pipe around, because they are longer, how they're going to get them moved around site accordingly. But they've definitely found them to be an easier product to install on site, and therefore quicker.
Well, that's really good to know. And from your end, and I'm sure this differs between projects, but who was sort of involved in the process to get the pipes from, from an idea or from someone seeing that it's allowed in standards and specs actually onto the ground? Who are the sort of people that are in the tent?
Look, people like myself in the sustainability space, but they're one of the key drivers. Your design manager as part of your team, your designers, to help support that implementation into the design, ensuring that it's, I suppose, in a way that too, that they do is what the design manager and designers do is help to support its being called out in design, so it's clear that it's a requirement. So it's clearly articulated in the design that is the need to be met, or the product to be used. And then moving into the construction team, it's then working with the sustainability lead to ensure that the construction team's educated and understanding that when we go to make sure you read the drawings, which I'm sure they will, and understand that in these sections where we have this pipe, that we are ordering it accordingly and making sure we're contacting those relevant suppliers and going to tender for those particular products so we can get them to design. So it's educating the construction team as much as from design into construction, so I say, and making sure that construction team understands the need to procure those pipes and then get them in, and then working with the team more broadly, being the workforce on the ground, to appreciate that you're going to be getting something new. Is there any concerns you have? So talking through with them if they have any concerns about the installation of the pipe and how it is, because it's different, something different they're not used to. And so they can actually understand they can potentially pull some efficiencies out there and help with program in some small instances, like it's not all drainage is back and curb, so it's not going to pull in lots of time, but it will help with programming those particular works.
That's good. And you touched on briefly some of the differences in how to physically get the pipes in. Are there sort of other challenges or barriers that you've faced in using these pipes?
Not us personally. I have heard anecdotally though that they have had some challenges with being stored outside in the sunlight for extended periods, and the team on site have had the same thing. But on the particular projects which we're using them, we haven't had any issues with that. With the pipes being stored in the sun, I believe, and I don't want to talk to it out of turns, but I believe that may lead to the pipe potentially coming out of shape slightly. But I don't have any evidence to that and had that on our jobs.
Well, you'd think it's like anything else, each product would have its own set of OH&S requirements, storage requirements, like any virgin product may as well, any other sort of raw material. Yeah.
And I do believe that information has come from supplier discussions on how to best manage the product on site, from what I understand.
Yeah, you've been around the traps for a number of years. Have you seen the quality of the pipes evolve over that period?
Yeah, I have seen them evolve, and I've also seen, and through that and the implementation, I've seen more of an eagerness to uptake the product. It does definitely help through the implementation of the Recycle First policy onto the MRPV projects through their Recycle First plan and the relevant commitments. So that has helped that process, no doubt. But there's definitely more engagement and eagerness to try and use these pipes, and it's great to see. And I diverge slightly here, but it's a similar vein. eMesh, we're having some great wins with our projects with that. And the guys, as much as it's a little bit different to apply, it's actually quicker. So they actually like using the product. So in this instance with the pipe, it's a quicker pipe to install. It's lighter to use. It's from OHS perspective. There's some safety benefits from that as well. So there's a lot of positives. Although it's different, and people don't like change. Once they get used to that, it's showing to be a benefit to the project and the team on the ground.
Obviously, again, coming from that sustainability space, how do you go about getting buy-in from other engineers on the project who might not, they might not have the same interest, they might not have see the same value in using recycled materials? How do you sort of get them on side?
I think a great thing, and it's not for all recycled products, I'll clearly say this, but for many, is cost. It's generally, not always, generally they are cheaper. Be it recycled crushed rock, be it recycled plastic pipes, whatever it may well be, they generally, because they don't have as much processing involved in terms of the raw material coming into the process, although there is processing, and sometimes it is more, but generally not. It generally is a saving there. So that definitely is something that catches their interest, but also understanding that the world we live in now, we are working towards the use of more recycled material. The client, MRPV in this instance, are very eager for that to happen. We've got a plan and a policy we need to adhere to. So there's contractually we're obliged to also work to that. So I need to understand it's part of the way we do business. It's a part of the way we work, and we need to support that. So a lot of the younger engineers I work with, generally, I have had little trouble, and even some of the more seasoned engineers / PMs and that, they're pretty engaging. I've been fortunate. I'm not saying all are the same, and if I met some in the past some that have challenged me in the past, they may still be that way. But in the end, the client, being MRPV here, want this, and we're needing to move forward to implement it. So it's really that having that sort of implemented as part of our KPIs in this instance and contract requirements has supported that implementation.
Great. And this is probably getting a little bit off topic, but have you found the policy pretty handy in supporting the use of these products because it's actually mandated to use them? Is that translating a lot easier than it maybe was before to get some recycled materials on the ground?
No, Priscilla definitely has. They see the commitment from government, then into the client, being MRPV in this instance. It definitely speaks volumes to them giving that understanding that that's what's needed to be done, and it definitely has supported the implementation of recycled materials throughout the job, not just recycled plastic pipe. And I feel that you'll probably find for those jobs within for people on the call today who are working on jobs that are implementing that policy and this relevant plan, that they're hopefully finding the same buy-in, because to help them support their targets and achieving their KRAs, they're having to implement this document. So, and it often has cost benefits, not always, but often can. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you learned anything out of using these pipes with the experiences that you've had today?
Look, with the pipe, not so much, but I just think with the build, I think what I've learned is more and more now our teams are being more open to the use of recycled materials, which is encouraging. And finally, and that's providing some comfort to me to say that the work that the government's done to have this policy implemented through their projects is having a real world impact on the ground with implementation of these products. You know, and also not only is it supporting the use of recycled materials, more often than not always, but more often than not, it's supporting local industry, which is even better. And so that's even another sort of win-win there in that regard.
Yeah, so you're using products that are Victorian made, and they're probably not being dragged halfway across the state either. That they could potentially come from the local area, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it can be the case, not always, but it can be the case. Yeah, but yeah. And they're not being dragged halfway around the world sometimes too. So that's benefited in itself. So definitely.
For sure. And what would be your words of wisdom? You move on to your next job, and you're looking to install these pipes again. What wisdom are you bringing to that?
Look, I think it's a very, very simple statement. Everyone's using it now. There's no reason why we shouldn't be. And where they're approved, they should be just what we do. There shouldn't be an if, but, or maybe, we might do it. If it's approved, why aren't we using it? Well, the answer is, you tell me why we're not. Because that's what we should be doing. That's a bit forceful, but if it's becoming the business as usual that we are expecting in our industry, and the client will start to expect of us, and the product is meeting the specification requirements, and there hasn't been, generally speaking, any quality issues that haven't plagued it of such, then why are we not using it?
This is really a question of why. Yeah, why not?
Definitely. And then again, a little bit off topic, but it goes more broadly to recycled products, across the gamut of construction, because there are so many that are implementing the use of recycled materials that would generally go to landfill. Would be going to landfill if they weren't being used. Then it's providing a win to both the environment, society, and providing the sustainable outcomes that we want to achieve.
Yeah. And I guess, again, over your experience, you've probably seen us come a really long way in that space. Even before the policy was introduced, I think there was a lot of movement towards this. But it's great to see that it's actually becoming ingrained in the culture at different contractors.
Yeah, look, I definitely, with the likes of the IS rating tool being implemented on medium to large jobs over the past 5 or more years in Victoria particularly, I think that's been one of those catalysts. But I really do feel, and it's nice to see, that this government policy, along with the requirements in contracts, is really driving this change more broadly. And when we price jobs, is what we have to consider now, and particularly with MRPV jobs, we have to consider that. We have even LXRA jobs, I'm sure, and I understand on jobs that we've been partly involved in that from other projects that have been required to support their client in the delivery of that. So it's filtering out throughout the industry now.
Great. Cheryl's given us our calls. Sorry, we've got some
Well, no, you can keep going, but I thought I'd just pop it up anyway.
No, that's fine.
That's all right.
Sorry, now I can't. We've got a couple of questions, both from David Dickerson. The first one is, how do the recycled pipes compare with conventional pipes in regard to strength, durability, and lifespan?
To my knowledge, they are comparable from a durability and lifespan perspective, because if they didn't meet design life requirements, they wouldn't meet the spec requirements, as I understand. What was the other part of that question? Sorry, Cheryl.
In regard to strength, durability, and lifespan.
Yeah, I must say I can't talk to strength. I haven't seen the detail on the strength comparison between the two, and I couldn't talk to that. I'm sorry.
That would be part of the standards and specs, though, wouldn't it? That it would have to meet.
I would have thought to allow it to meet that application in a non-structural setting, they would have to meet the minimum requirements, and it would look at strength, durability, one and the same, and the useful life, design life.
Yeah, and this is probably a little bit, but I know in a presentation we had from one of the suppliers who started making these, like, I think before 2000, they had installed some pipes that had been in the ground for 16 years. So, I mean, that's a one-off instance, but I just thought that was really interesting to see that, you know, obviously they had been in the ground for a long time. And as you've already discussed, things have improved with the technology as well in the last few years.
Yeah, they've needed to move with the times to help support the implementation of the product. The standard has had to improve.
Yeah, and I think just to get the standards, things across the standard and specs, they have to meet a certain durability and strength and everything else. So they have to be fit for purpose, I guess, in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second question is, do the recycled plastic pipes need any special requirements in regard to bedding, haunching, and minimum cover?
That's a good question. I've been speaking to engineers just today, actually, just to confirm a couple of things before we caught up today. I've not been told of any reference to any spec change or the actual design change to the bedding and haunching. No. And the only thing would be not in terms of its installation in the ground, it's just the way it's installed is slightly different because it's such a larger section. You might need to use a slightly different piece of kit to install it. May not either. But no, I've not heard of any requirements differing in that space for the installation of that pipe.
And you said that your teams were finding it easier
yes,
to do the work and get it done a bit quicker, which I guess saves some costs as well if it's a time factor. Yeah,
I've had no complaints on the use of the pipe, and they've been happy with the productivity they're getting out of its use on site, which has been a good thing.
Great. I think I don't know if there are any more questions. You probably covered it quite well in the sessions. Was there anything else that you feel that might be of interest?
We've got one more through.
So, Pete?
We've got one more question through the chat.
One more. Okay, it's not
popped up now from Andrew McLennan.
Oh,
so
cool.
For this product specifically, is it cheaper than non-recycled products? And we did touch on this during the sesh, but if you want to talk to it in a bit more detail, Matt, that'd be great.
I'm going to be lacking here. I am not 100% certain. I must say I haven't asked that question of the guys, or the guys and girls should say, and I don't know. I would assume it is cheaper, only because the cost of concrete and the RIA would need to go into the concrete pipe, but I don't know the specific costs.
What we found with like the e-mesh, a couple of people have mentioned, is that because it's quicker and lighter, there's a cost saving in laying. And I think there was one project that saved a couple $1 million just with that changeover because there was less labour. Do you reckon that's a factor in with the pipes as well?
I definitely would think it would be, yes, 100%. Because it is because they're larger sections going in the ground a lot quicker. You're effectively halving the installation time. To install one pipe, you'd be installing 2 concrete culverts. So that would be in turn, less plant movements, interactions with people from a safety and a speed perspective. It has been quicker.
And Andrew, we'll investigate that and get some feedback from a few.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew. Apologise, mate.
Yeah, we'll get some feedback.
I'm only a lonely sustainability professional. Not always into the detailed costs. I should be, but I'm not always.
No, we will investigate that. I'm sure that information will be out there. There is another question here in the chat from Miles. Many thanks, Matthew. What range of bedding backfills have you used with this pipe? And is there preferred recycled bedding material amongst site crews?
Look, there is. I would be preferring in your. I don't think it's a bedding. I think it might be the haunching. I think you are looking at using your recycled glass sands, where you have used it in some of our instances on this job. Recycled glass, I say. So that is one recycled option to use. So I don't think it. I have to check the design. I can't remember if it's the bedding or in the haunching that you can use the recycled sand. I think it's in the haunching. So in that regard, it's that's another consideration. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I went away from that.
Is there? Sorry, go Sharon.
No, you finish.
Is there a preferred recycled bedding material among site crews?
So that would be what I'd be pushing. We've had some challenges with it, not the product, just with some site conditions. With the recycled glass used fully on site, but we have used an amount. But definitely its use obviously supports the installation and the sustainable outcomes from installation of drainage on site. And you can use it not only, with your recycled plastic pipes, you can also use it with the existing concrete solution as structural settings. So you can use the same bedding material, as I understand, or the haunching material.
David's just expressing some concerns around, yeah, it's great to use the pipes now, but don't want them to collapse in the future. But I really believe that would be one of the things that would be tested during the development of the standards and specs, is that some way of testing sort of durability in the long term. I guess getting it in the ground is and having it for years is one thing, but there must be some sort of strength tests. And I think we might try and investigate that and see if we can get any more information on that as well.
Yeah, I would definitely, yeah, that'd be great. I would say without doubt they'd have, for DOT to have approved it. Yeah. There would have to be definitely comfort for them to approve that product in use for a durability and a duration perspective. I wouldn't see them letting it go across the line if they didn't have comfort that it would meet those requirements. Yeah. It's not going to do plastics. We all know plastics degrade over several thousand odd years. You know, the plastic lasts in situ for a long time. So it's just, I'm sure that there'd be, they would have, I'm not sure, I know they would have to have met and given comfort to the DOT specifications to ensure that they met the requirements. Well,
that's right. And that is the one thing about plastic, whereas concrete does degrade as well, doesn't it? It's kind of wears away and wears down.
They can. I think concrete can get concrete cancer with the corrosion of the Rio inside, and they degrade that way. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. But I think Ecologiq's actually pulling together some Mythbuster sessions. So these are great questions that we'll actually add into those videos and those sheets, so that if there are any further questions at any time, that just helps us to dig out the answers and provide a bit more information to people. So keep an eye out for that Mythbuster series. Thanks, Matthew. I think, Priscilla, we picked up all those questions?
Yep, we're all good.
So I'll just quickly go on to the next week. And if any other questions do come up before we finish, we're happy to answer them. So next week we'll be, while this is the last, effectively, the lunch and learn session, we will be taking you on a tour of our visual guides next week, and that will be a 45-minute session. Doy and Lauren will be doing that. The visual guides are a tool that we introduced in February. We'll also touch on the supply. So this is an example of how visual guides can be used, and they help open people's minds to what recycled materials are available. We'll also touch on the supplier map, which is on our Ecologiq hub as well. So that will be next week. I'll be shooting something out Monday to let you know. And we are having a conference. The Minister announced in a press release and a conference yesterday, Ecologiq's Greener Infrastructure Conference, which will be on the 7th of September. So you're hearing about it almost first. You will hear more about it as we move through the year, but we're sending out some save the date notices. So the 6th and 7th of September, put that in your diaries and keep an eye out for that as well. Okay, we've got one more question from Miles. UV is the main deterioration mechanism for most forms of plastic, so buried pipes are at very low risk of degrading over their service life. Okay, thanks. That's great information. That's a bit of information, not a question. Thank you for that, Miles.
Thank you, Miles.
Okay, thank you once again, Priscilla and Matthew, for a great session, and thanks everyone for listening in. The recording will be on the Knowledge Share on Monday. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. See you, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the chat. See you all.
All right,
Bye.
thanks, Priscilla. See you, Cheryl. Bye.
Bye.